Good evening, friends. This is Father Tim. It is time to continue our reading of the scriptures. We continue in First Kings tonight. We'll be starting, or no, we started rather, chapter 11 this morning. So we are in the midst of chapter 11. Chapter 11 is a significant chapter in this book. As you can see from the big picture here, the first 11 chapters are the reign of Solomon as king in Jerusalem. And chapters 9 through 11 are the downfall of Solomon. Solomon, who goes from being wise and faithful in his youth, in the beginning of years of his reign, to the latter years of his reign and life, where he is not so wise and not so faithful, where his reign resembles more Pharaoh than David, and where he fails to walk in God's ways, and it's about to have consequences. Solomon has already been told by this point that the kingdom will be ripped away from his son. There is tragedy. There is disunity coming. We'll be resuming tonight at verse 26 in chapter 11. I'll be reading from the left-hand column, which is the complete Jewish Bible. And the right-hand column has the text as found in the New Revised Standard Version updated edition. And I'll be using this mostly in order to make sure that we're all on the same page as we read from a Jewish Bible. And Jewish biblical language isn't always the same as Christian biblical language. Like, for example, Solomon in the Jewish Bible is Shlomo. There are a handful of others, persons, places, things that have a Jewish biblical name that is not a direct carryover into our Christian Bible. Good evening, Mom. Good evening, Don and Linda. Good evening, Cheryl. Let's read. Also, Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephraimite from Zereda, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, Shlomo's servants, rebelled against the king. Here is the reason he rebelled against the king. Shlomo was building the Millo and closing the breach in the wall of the city of David his father. Now, this Yerovam was a strong, energetic man, and Shlomo, seeing how serious the young man was, made him supervisor over all the work being done by the tribe of Joseph. Once during this period, when Yerovam had gone out of Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah, from Shiloh spotted him traveling. Achiah was wearing a new cloak, and the two of them were alone in an open country. In open country. Achiah took hold of his new cloak that he was wearing and tore it into 12 pieces. Then he said to Yerovam, "Take 10 pieces for yourself, for here is what Adonai, the God of Israel, says. I am going to tear the kingdom out of Shlomo's hand, and I will give 10 tribes to you. But he will keep one tribe for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city I have chosen from all the tribes of Israel. I will do this because they have abandoned me and worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidoni. Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonian. Chemosh, the god of the Moab. Chemosh, the god of Moab. And Milcom, the god of the people of Ammon, the Ammonites. They haven't lived according to my ways, so that they could do what was right in my view and obey my regulations and rulings, as did David his father. Nevertheless, I will not take the entire kingdom away from him, but I will make him prince as long as he lives. For the sake of David, my servant, whom I chose, because he obeyed my mitzvot and regulations. Mitzvot, commandments, instruction. However, I will take the kingdom away from his sons and give 10 tribes of it to you. To his son I will give 1 tribe, so that David my servant will always have a light burning before me in Jerusalem, the city I chose for myself as the place to put my name. I will take you, and you will rule over everything you want. You will be king over Israel. Now, if you will listen to all that I order you, living according to my ways, and do what is right in my view, so that you observe my regulations and mitzvot, as David my servant did, then I will be with you, and I will build you a lasting dynasty, as I built for David. And I will give Israel to you. For this offense I will trouble David's descendants, but not forever. Because of this, Shlomo tried to kill Yerovam, but Yerovam roused himself, fled to Egypt, to Shishak, king of Egypt, and stayed in Egypt until the death of Shlomo. Other activities of Shlomo, all he accomplished, and his wisdom are recorded in the annals of Shlomo. The length of Shlomo's reign in Jerusalem over all Israel was 40 years. Then Shlomo slept with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam, his son, became king in his place. Let's pause the timer for just a moment here to take a peek at the big board here, chapter as we move into chapter 12. Solomon is now dead. Rehoboam is now king in place of Solomon. And so we are into this next section, chapters 12 to 6 through 16. Israel is split in two. The northern kingdom under Jeroboam the southern kingdom under Judah, Samaria being the center of Israel and Jerusalem the center of Judah. Good evening, Francis. So, by the way, spoiler alert, Jeroboam is being elevated because of the wickedness of Solomon in his latter years. And God has made Jeroboam the promise that if he walks faithfully like David, his reign will be a lasting dynasty. Well, that was the promise made to Solomon. And guess what? Solomon didn't keep it. Jeroboam will make Solomon look very faithful and his wickedness very mild. From the point of Solomon to the exile of both kingdoms, there are 20 kings in the north, 20 kings in the south. The north is the breakaway because of the unfaithfulness of Solomon. 20 kings of 20 kings will be wicked in the north. In the south, 8 of 12 will be faithful, which means only 12 of 20. Kind of staggering numbers. Chapters 12 to 16, Israel splits into two kingdoms, the north and the south. Rechavam went to Shechem, where all Israel had come to proclaim him king. When Yerovam, the son of Nevat, heard of it, for he was still in Egypt, where he had fled from Shlomo. So Yerovam was living in Egypt. But they sent and summoned him. Yerovam and the whole community of Israel came and said to Rechavam, your father laid a harsh yoke on us. But if you will lighten the harsh service we had to render your father and ease his heavy yoke that he put on us, we will serve you. He said to them, leave me alone for 3 days, then come back to me. So the people left. King Rechavam consulted the older men who had been in attendance on Shlomo his father during his lifetime and asked, what advice would you give me as to how to answer these people? They said to him, if you will start today being a servant to these people, if you will serve them, be responsive to them, and give them favorable consideration, then they will be your servants forever. But he didn't take the advice the older men gave him. Instead, he consulted the young men who had grown up with. Instead, he consulted the young men who had grown up with, who were now his attendants. Oh, that's why. Let's try that again. Instead, he consulted the young men he had grown up with, who were now his attendants. He asked them, what advice would you give me so that we can give an answer to these people who said to me, lighten the yoke that your father laid on us? The young men he had grown up with said to him, These people who said to you, your father made our yoke heavy, but you make it lighter for us. Here's the answer you should give them. My little finger is thicker than my father's waist. Yes, my father burdened you with a heavy yoke, but I will make it heavier. My father controlled you with whips, but I will control you with scorpions. We're going to pause there, friends. Next time we'll pick up at chapter 12, verse 12. In a few moments, friends, you'll see another live, and on that next live, we will pray evening prayers together tonight. Peace be with you.